Hello, welcome to Beyond the Horizon. I am your host, Tabea Zoé. I am an entrepreneur, the founder of Creative Waters, a spiritual mentor, and a mystical philosopher. And on this podcast, we are redefining reality one conversation at a time and leading into this rise of consciousness as we step into what is emerging beyond the horizon. Today, I am joined for a conversation by Sara-Lynn, also known as Shadow Madonna. She is a feminine psyche coach, and today we are discussing the art of dressing ourselves as an act of authenticity, intention, intuition, and instinct. We are discussing so many nuances of what it means or what it can mean to really embrace the ritual of dressing ourselves and how we can step into a future, into a new identity through the way that we dress, and what it means to really play with a feminine and a masculine in this intentionality of dressing ourselves. We get into what it means to do the inner work by living it and by stepping into who we want to be in our daily life through ritual, through intentionality, through intuitively choosing who we want to be through what we put on our body, what we wear, what we use as our jewelry, and even in our home, how we create our reality in daily life. I absolutely loved this conversation. I am so excited to bring it to you. So let's get on right into it. So, hello, welcome, Sara-Lynn, to Beyond the Horizon. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here,
Yes.
really. Yes.
I am so excited to get into the conversation. But first up, as you know, I always like to ask you a question about our rise in consciousness, what we are moving through. So I want to start it off with one question. How do you perceive the shift in our consciousness?
I love the broadness of the question because it creates the freedom of deciding where do we want to zero in on. And I think that the way that I perceive it for the most part is that most people are becoming unwilling to lie to themselves. And what that results as is that people are becoming more acquainted with their own truth, which inevitably makes them a bit like, oh shit, I have to have to go into my shadows now. I have to understand what's hidden back there. But ultimately with the golden light, with the North Star of, okay, when I feel my truth more vividly through my body, through my existence, I'm also more authentic and therefore more free. And so I'm sensing more people are becoming unafraid of being authentic, ultimately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you feel like there is a tension right now between inauthenticity and authenticity, or this feeling of I have been lying to myself? Or how do you feel about this collectively?
Yeah, for sure. I think that as people are becoming like more acquainted and more exposed to therapy in general, therapy as the word by itself. Remember, like 50 years ago, you weren't even allowed to say this word, right? And as people are becoming more exposed to this word and therefore also exposed to all of the different ways in which therapy is shown, is experienced, is demonstrated. Like, there's TV shows now about people going to therapy, right? And so, with that being more at the forefront of people's experience, people's minds, people's eyes, therefore, it's going to become really difficult for that inauthenticity to remain, to stay, and to take hold. People are also becoming more unwilling, like years down the line, to turn around and go, okay, like shit, could have looked at this 20 years ago or like 25 years ago. Um, And I think that especially the young generation, like they're willing and they're ready. And I think that they sense that as therapy becomes more and more inclusive, and actually you even I might even say people are daring to feel even more inclusion because they're going to therapy, because they're experimenting in all the different ways in which therapy can help them. They're having a very different experience than generations before. And inevitably, that's, truer authenticity and less friction, right, with oneself and the reality around us.
Yeah. And when you look into the future and you think that everybody is on that path of becoming more authentic or shameless, I want to say,
Mhm.
what do you think will change in our world?
I think that, exactly that, a big exhale, individually and collectively.
Mm.
Imagine you don't have to wear all of those masks. Imagine you don't need to carry all of that weight anymore. Imagine you actually get to feel free. You actually get to hear your own voice. And then you're meeting other people that are feeling that way too. It's like, my gosh, like beauty, right? Beautiful. And there's a polarity to that, of course, too, right? Like it's not just butterflies and like, oh my gosh, beautiful, like rainbows and unicorns, because we're all authentic now. It's like, yeah, we're going to have conflict because we're more authentic.
Yeah,
But
rainbows,
ultimately,
rainbows and thunderstorms, I would say.
yes, exactly. Yeah, like we can't get there without the other aspect, right? And it's about, getting really skilled also in like conflict resolution and relational work, right?
Mm.
So I don't know if that answered the question, but that's
Yeah.
what I'm sensing.
So my last question is, in that regard, what do you want
Mhm.
our future to be?
What do I want the future to be? Mm, I don't know if I have so many expectations for the future. I really like, I don't know, have a very Buddhist kind of like interpretation of it. Like I really think that what is meant to be is meant to be. And I think that we're just on this journey, and that means individually, that means collectively. I don't know if I feel like there is something in particular that I'm like, oh, this must, happen in a sense. Um, I would summarize it with one word, which is lightness. I think what I wish for is lightness, that each person gets to feel a little bit lighter about whatever it is that they're carrying. A little lighter, maybe even a little sexier. That's kind of it. They can feel lighter and they can feel sexier about whatever is happening to them. I'm happy. That sounds like a great future.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
So we talked about how we create the future in the way that we dress. So,
Ooh, yes,
and
we
when you
did.
say like to what we carry, that it becomes light, I was immediately thinking about the clothes that we carry
Mm.
and like the sexiness. So
Mhm.
when you, maybe we start just right there, when you think about yourself in your most authentic and free expression, how does that relate to the way that you dress?
Mm. Gorgeous question. Gorgeous question. So the way that I would relate with it, or with that lightness, is is deeply tied also to the authenticity, I'd say. It's every woman knows the experience of putting on the wrong outfit that day. We all know that. We all know what it feels like to have gone, shit, I really genuinely should have worn those other pants. And
Yeah.
I'd probably be having a better time if I were,
Yeah.
right? And so it's like, it's so simplistic, and yet at the same time, it's so meaningful. It's undeniable. You
Mm.
and I both know that that you were feeling like it was the other pants, that was the play. And that undeniability is tied to authenticity, like authentic expression, truthful expression that comes out of you with, there's no right or wrong. It's literally just how you experience, it's how you feel or how you sense. And I think that that applies to lightness for me. It's like I can't, or not rather, I can't. I can look at my wardrobe and I can immediately feel like, okay, this is what's speaking to me today. And if I wear this today, then I'm closer and more inhabiting my body. And at the same time, also, in devotion to myself and to where I'm moving towards, or how I want to spend the day or how I want to express that day, and therefore feel lighter. So in a way, yes, like we could summarize and be like, okay, let's wearing really light clothes today, like light colors and like light fabrics. And all of those things are also very meaningful and very symbolic, and they do contribute, but we have to start first at the sensation and the trust that comes up in the body when we look at a wardrobe and we go, that piece.
Yeah.
That's where I have to start. Yeah.
So let's start there and continue there, because I feel like there are two ways of looking at that decision. And one is through intuition and really sensing it. And the other is more through the sense of intention, intentionally choosing something that maybe is a little bit different than the sensation, but also has its value and maybe even bringing us into something else than what we feel right now. So when you look through intuition or intention, what do you lean towards, and how would you start in like choosing what you wear in the morning?
So the question is intuition versus instinct, correct? A little bit.
Depends on your definition. What would you say is intuition? What would you say is instinct?
So instinct for me is more the instant, the instantaneous, the immediate, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the oh my God, there's a tiger, we have to run, right? There's also a sense of masculinity that also lives behind that. And I think that it's more something that is like a lightning bolt.
Mm-hmm.
While an intuition is more like a waterfall. It's ever flowing. It's a little softer in its arrival. And it's like there's a diversity in which it shows itself, whether that's through your body, whether that's through a vision. And for me, and in my experience, more feminine, softer, right? Yeah. Yeah. What about you?
So when I think about what you described as instinct, I feel like there's so often something that feels almost like instant, but that is actually fear or even what is comfortable. The immediate like this is what I go for often is because we are used to something, or this is what I normally go for. So this is the obvious choice. But then also the limitation, I think there's often, even in dressing, in my experience, there were often times when I chose to dress a way that was more of this reactive energy, more of this instinctive, actually, that wasn't my instinct, but more of this actual survival mode of this is how I stay safe in my environment. And for example, I used to be like in my teenage years, I was so expressive, so colorful. I was always vintage shopping and making my own clothing and so on. But I had all of these reactions where people said like I was weird and they didn't understand it and so on. And I remember that I had a moment, I think I was like 16 or 17, when I decided I would only wear black, gray, and white. I would eradicate all color from my wardrobe. I would just do basics. I wouldn't wear anything that is more intricate or more special, but just have this uniform. And I always had like these skinny, tight black jeans and then a leather jacket. And I am from Berlin, so it was kind of like this. I am protected in my own field. I am stepping out into this crazy world, and I have like, it was like an armor actually that I wore in that time. And I think looking back in that time, I would have said like, this is after the intention. So there was an intention, I would say, of like, I am going to dress this way, which is a little bit of a different conversation than intuition versus instinct. So I made this choice, but it was all based on fear and limitation and shadow of, I do not want to be weird. I don't want to be approached. I don't want people to have this image of me. So it was really dressing out of shadow when we break it down. And so for me, this immediate instinct, I think, is something for me that is so often so clouded, or has been in the past, that I always lean towards intuition because it's so clear. It doesn't have this feeling of where I need to question myself and discern, is this actually a limiting belief? Is this just a reaction? Is this just what I'm used to? Is this just my comfort zone? But intuition is something that feels to me more subtle and like really a sensation. Like it just feels true and right and aligned, and there is no questioning around it. I do not need to question because it just is such a clear feeling that comes through that I don't even go down that route. So I can trust that a little bit more in what is true for me, what is authentic, because it just feels this deep resonance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Where does the intuition, does the intuition reach you from your feet up or from your head down?
Such an interesting question. From my hands in, I would say.
From your hands in?
Yeah.
From the middle? Okay, amazing.
So
Mm-hmm.
I also channel then I receive a lot of information from up above. I am claircognizant, so it just drops in as knowledge, kind of like I know this to be true. But then when it comes to more of this understanding in daily life, and I think this is such an important piece that is often missing from the conversation about intuition, is like in the morning when I take out something that I want to wear, like from the hands coming in, it is this feeling of, this is right. I can feel it in my fingers. And then also the feeling of resonance, of heart resonance, is also more of this layer of my heart and my hands. It also is kind of like this connection, I would say, on this level. So it doesn't come through the feet or through the head, but it's just like the heart and the hands in one line going out. How would you describe it?
Beautiful. I love that. I would describe it as instinct comes through the head, intuition comes through the feet. Yeah. It's also a good checkpoint for a lot of women who don't have that muscle of intuition built out to like a really great place. A good beginning place is to be like, okay, let me tune into my feet. What do my feet actually have to say about this situation? You know? And then in other moments, noticing like, you know, when you get into a room or you're somewhere and you just know you have to leave immediately. I think every woman also probably has experienced that in one shape or another. It's instantaneous. It's like a lightning bolt into the head. We got to go. We got to get out of here. So it's a good relational space to be with yourself and find out, okay, like what is it? What is it now? What is it now? What is it now? And that also applies then to like clothing, right? You looked like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I am curious if you would say that intuition and instinct are both just different ways of getting into your authenticity, or if you would say like intuition is the path and instinct takes you out of it. What does it look like to dress from intuition? What does it look like to dress from instinct? And where do you see all of these limiting beliefs and shadow aspects playing into this as well?
Oh my gosh, I love it. It's a really
Let's get
big
crystal
question.
clear.
Many questions coming together. Let's begin. Let's begin somewhere else, but we'll tick off all of the questions. But let's begin somewhere else, which is storytelling. I think that when we understand that we are the authors that write our own story, when we start to genuinely understand that from a heart place, from a soul place, from a place of like, I am the one that has the authority to pick up the pen and write the story, I think we begin to make very different decisions. And those decisions might come through intuition and through instinct. I think the instantaneous decision making that happens through fear is something else. I think it can have something to do with instinct. I also think, though, shadow call out, it can have to do with a false sense of intuition. So, just as we utilize both of these skill sets to be something that helps us and that moves us forward and gets us like really connected with like, especially our neck, our throat, like getting us into our voice, it can at the same time, of course, in some moments, lead us into fallacy, lead us into a place that is like, oh, well, that definitely wasn't my intuition. That was my fear speaking. And, when we think about storytelling, and we begin to use that lens and like really like put it in front of us and you're like, okay, let's look at my world, let's look at my life through this lens of storytelling and me being the author of my life. Clothing is the easiest place of manifestation, like physical manifestation, to begin. So, then we lean into more like, okay, so clearly taste is something that cannot be forced on you. And I say that from like a very privileged place. I say that from a place of like, I know that not everyone gets to have this experience, but I'm going to say, for the people that probably are listening to this podcast, they have that freedom. They do have that choice, right? And taste is something that wasn't, brainwashed into them. So when we look at styles, and this is what I did in one of my master classes, Fabrics of Desire, I showed 2 slides of 2 very different styles. And I said, in 3 seconds, tell me which one you pick. And it was clear. 1, 2, not 1, 1, 1, 2. So everyone was able to answer right away. And that to me is instinct. And that to me is proof that you actually know what the fuck you want.
Yeah.
And that is such an important lesson for women to experience, men as well, but for women to experience as they go, oh shit, underneath all of this ambiguity, underneath all of this unsureness and indecision, and what if I choose the wrong thing, you knew the entire time. And that is probably the most important information that a woman needs in order to start to trust herself and then pick up that pen and start to write her fucking story, right?
Yeah.
Tell that story. So that's why I wanted to start at the storytelling piece, because it's so vital when we're looking at like, okay, well, what is it that we want to like bring into manifestation? What do we want to bring into the physical world? And how can we express that through what we're wearing, through our clothes, through the fabrics that touch our body? So I wonder if we ticked off all of those questions. Did we? Did I?
No, but I'm just going with it. I've
Going
already
with
forgotten the questions. I'm just so in it.
Okay, perfect.
So
Amazing.
I feel like we don't even need to like tick them off or anything.
Okay.
I think it's so interesting because what you're saying, like the feminine, the masculine way, in trusting yourself, I feel like so many women, so many clients of mine have a sense of intuition. They know everything. They know everything, but they do
I'm
not.
sure they do.
Yeah, but they do not act upon it. And it's
Yeah.
really about building the trust in the intuition, but also the confidence in themselves that they can act upon it. And I feel like what you are describing with instinct, with the masculine, is really what could be such a building block in building that trust first, because it's not like, oh, it's just like this intuitive knowing that has come through, or I feel something, but it's like, no, it's instant, and you can trust in your like first thing. So often, even in relationships, when people get into unhealthy, toxic relationships, there were red flags right in the beginning, and they saw them. They saw the red flags, but then only later on they're like, yeah, actually there was like, these were the red flags that I saw in the beginning. So you have that instinct, you have that intuition, but the building that trust and that confidence is actually in understanding, yeah, it's already there now. Like, you can act upon it. You can say, yes, this one, this outfit, this is the style, this is the style. You can just act upon it immediately. So I feel like maybe, what I am thinking is maybe the instinct is even more important to develop than the intuition in my field, in the women that I am like connecting to. And most of the women, I believe, that listen to this podcast, and maybe you can check in for yourself when you're listening, if you are leaning towards your intuition a lot, if you have developed your instinct, because it is this, when you trust yourself, the moment you have a reaction, it looks so different than to go into this, let me check in, let me look for a sign.
Yep. Looking for a sign is submitting to God, submitting to the universe. And what we as women need is to feel really fucking sovereign, erect with our spine, and clear. And clarity is what gets us close to that instinct moment, that moment that's like, and here, and this, and here and no further. And that's really different. And to me, I completely agree. And this is the work that I do a lot with the women that come into my field for whatever amount of time, is like, how can we get you so acquainted with this instinct, which, by the way, is your inner man? Surprise, surprise. How can we get you acquainted? How can we get you in love? How can we get you into a love affair with this part of you? And can you identify the voice that comes out that says this, not that? It's not always the inner man. A lot of the time it is. A lot of the time it is. Sometimes it's the dark feminine that needs to take over, and that needs to like get a bit of like weight training in, a bit of airtime in our psyche that starts directing us a bit more and gets us like really clear with what we want and where we want it and how we desire it. But it is an absolute non-negotiable for women who are desiring to live their lives through their intuition. You cannot sustainably do one without the other. I haven't seen it. And I have mentored a lot of women. I haven't seen it. You must have one with the other.
Yeah.
You cannot one without the other. It just doesn't work.
Definitely. And I also like to say that asking for signs is not only submitting, but it's actually really disrespectful, because
Yes. Yeah, it's really rude. It's really rude.
Yeah, it's just rude to the divine, to the muse, because when you come from that understanding that you are always in connection to the divine, it's like always asking, like, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? It just doesn't work. And it's kind of disrespecting everything that the universe or the divine is already showing you. It's like you are closing your eyes and then you are asking, like, can you show me again? But you're like that.
With your little flyers on, and you're like, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it puts women in a very difficult spot, because it allows them to believe that they must remain in the loop of victimhood without them ever knowing, without them ever having that conscience or that conscious insight of being like, oh, I actually have to get up and I actually have to do something. And I don't mean that from like, the hyper independent girl that does everything on her own. We love her. We love her a lot, but that's not what I mean. What I mean is like being so deeply in your feminine, where you're so in your intuition, you're listening and you're slow and, all the yin, all the tea drinking, right? And at some point, it's also important for the spine to feel herself again in her body. It's necessary. And it's necessary to also build out a beautiful fucking wardrobe. It's really hard to have like a wardrobe that is equal parts interesting and powerful and magnetic and soft if we don't have one without the other.
I mean, I'm all about inner union. And when we talked about, when I was thinking about this conversation, I was thinking about all the different ways that I like to dress. And right now I'm leaning a little bit more into the feminine, but actually I love this mix. I actually love bringing together the feminine and the masculine in every outfit. Combining the dress with the boots and having like something girly and then something more rough and playing with those parts, or even something oversized. I love oversized things, and like being undone but then also polished, always playing with the contrast, with the contradiction. And I feel like such a massive part of the integration of feminine and masculine is holding contradiction and allowing yourself to hold contradicting parts within, opposing forces within, as one and the same. So when you think about the way that you dress right now, and even with the intention that you said, like when you are the creator of your reality, the way you dress is like the first thing that can really manifest something into tangible reality, a new identity. What are you stepping into right now?
Ooh, what am I stepping into right now? What a beautiful question. I would say I am starting to get acquainted with having more of a maximalist style than a minimalist style. And that's very interesting for me because it's been many years of being minimalist, but extremely intentional with what it is that I travel with, because I've just done a lot of traveling. I can sense I would love to have more than like 6, 7 pairs of shoes. And I know that's probably a lot for a minimalist.
I don't know.
But for me, as someone who is a devotee to truth and to style, that's not a lot, right? And so I'm really sensing that there is diversity. There is this hunger, there is a sensation of like biting into a peach and like letting it drip all over me and not caring because I've got a brilliant, amazing blouse that's ready for me to wear because I've got, 10. And like, I'm not like, this is not about fast fashion, obviously not. All of the pieces are very meticulously selected and found, and most importantly, to me at least, have like a deep story, a story that is not just, I bought this off the rack. The story is 9 times out of 10, if you look at my closet, oh, this is from this tiny shop in this country, in this corner. It's like it's from this woman that I met who had it when she was 18. Like it has a lot of storytelling attached to it before it becomes my story to tell. And those are my favorite pieces by far. I can't get enough of that kind of experience of being like, oh, these boots that I bought, they've functioned and they have seen the world. And now they are mine, and I'm going to show them even more of the world. So there's a deep sense of ownership that's also connected with that, right? And that's, of course, applicable to whatever it is that you decide to select, but you get to decide that it's owning it, right? And sometimes, at the moment, I can sense that there's like, this is so silly, but it fucking works. It's crazy. I can really sense there is like a skimpy, sexy little kitten heel sandal that will be mine in the next 4 weeks. I know it. I can feel it. I can feel it coming, and I can feel that there is a part of myself in the future that wears those heels and has something to tell me. There's also a communication, right? And I'm explaining this to this detail because I want to really expand the lens of how it is that we relate with the things that we're wearing. So if I can sense that sexy fucking little skimpy little kitten heel sandal, then I can sense like, wow, there's something coming for me. And I wonder who she's going to be. And I wonder how she moves. And I wonder if I need to get her a dress. And I wonder if I need to get her maybe, a matching pair of earrings. And so I'm asking myself all of these questions. And as you can maybe start to sense, when I ask those questions, I somatically begin to speak slower. My voice drops. And you can sense I'm in my masculine. My inner man is asking these questions. He's interested in knowing what she is going to be wearing and how he can take her on a date and where does she want to go. So it's just like such a deeply diverse like world that is in some ways already masterfully being used by women and in some ways being deeply missed. So yes, there is the ritual of getting ready, for example. We love to get ready in the morning, even if it's just 3 minutes, even if it's just 5 minutes, or if it's 2 hours, we're already doing that. But when we start to infuse it with that relational field, with those questions that allow us to go into, oh, my intuition is saying this and my instinct is saying this, it's already happening. It already exists within you, these skills, these things that very naturally come to you. And when I say you, I say that to the audience, of course, to the listeners, because that is what you get to experience. You get to just add another lens of like, you are already skilled. It has already arrived. You just get to make it have meaning now. You get to pick up that pen and have that ownership of being like, oh no, I know exactly what shade of blush I want. I know exactly when I walk into a store, I'm not going to pick that color. I'm going to pick this color. I don't like that texture. I like this texture. You wouldn't catch me dead in this and polyester, for example. Me personally. I'm only buying natural fibers, right? So there's so much richness in that. So much richness in that.
Yeah. I have so many thoughts, but I really want to get into the detail of the relationship of the inner feminine and masculine in this case, how I see it, because I had to smile for myself. In the beginning of my current relationship with my fiance, he was invited to a wedding and he took me along, and I bought like 5 dresses or so to choose from. And we had this video call because he wasn't around, and I was dressing up. I was trying all of them on. I was showing him how they look, which one should I wear, and they all had such different vibes. And he was like, I love you in all of them. I will buy you all of them. I will pay for them. Tell me how much they cost. I will buy you everything. And I was like, yes, I am so held in who I am, in my feminine energy. And our engagement ring is this one. If you're watching the video, you can see it. So it's like, it looks almost black, but it's actually red. And all of my rings are red. And they're all heirlooms. So it's all like passed down through generations, and this ring as well. And it's like, yeah, he sees me, he knows me so well that he doesn't pick like any kind of like normal engagement ring with a diamond, but he picks something that has meaning and history that just suits me and that matches who I am, what I wear. And imagine what that feels like in a relationship to your man. And then imagine what that is like if you do that for yourself. Because this is actually this holding energy of the masculine that you can have within yourself, where you feel so held by yourself being in your feminine energy because you have developed your masculine energy. Because there is this part of you that is witnessing, that is seeing you in the flow, that is holding you in it, that is asking, like, what will she decide? And it also, in what you said, like being curious about, okay, who is she becoming, and so on. It's like the feminine leads. And this is the dynamic that I actually see is often misconstrued in what we see about feminine and masculine energy. The feminine is the one that leads, and the masculine is the one that follows by holding her flow, or that follows by coming into action and really acting upon that instinct, that intuition, that feeling, that desire, that emotion. So it's first in the feminine, it is first in the energetic, and then it becomes tangible, which is also the masculine when we look at it like through the broadest lens of energy, of reality, I mean. So I feel like what you just described, and just this act of who am I becoming and what do I choose to purchase, and who am I as a person who chooses this way, it's like this intricate dance internally between the feminine and the masculine, which so many women also seek outside of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're like searching on the outside. They're like, oh my gosh, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Turns out it can be created by you. And it probably should if you want things to be sustainable, if you want things to last. Yeah. So beautiful. I completely agree. And sometimes we don't feel ready for that, and that's okay. Like, some women are not quite ready to take the leap, and I'll pace it out and I'll sense it and I'll go, okay, I'm gonna give you, I'm sensing like you need two more weeks to like settle into what's coming towards you. And she can feel it too, but it needs some time sometimes. And then we have to maybe future pace, we have to sense into what's out there. And a lot of the time, like one of the last homeworks that women get from me when they're working with me in mentorship is getting a pair of boots. Because what are you doing all day long? Walking. And if you're getting a pair of boots that has deep symbolism, has an identity that you are yearning for, in devotion to, in reverence for, and almost placing on an altar. I've done that too. I've placed boots on an altar. 100% I did. And when the woman gets into that flow of being like, okay, every step I take gets me closer to her. Every step I take is one step where I can almost feel like my toes are touching her heels every time I walk. And then walking becomes a meditation. Walking becomes the transmission. Walking becomes the place where you meet her, or she begins to speak to you. Especially those moments where you're not quite sure, you're a little shy, you're a little, and it's outside of your comfort zone. And then you're walking and you're walking and you're again getting into relationship, getting into curiosity. What does she want to tell me? I've got these sexy fucking boots now on. I'm walking myself into my fucking future. And I'm like, I can sense it in my body. And it becomes more real and real and real with every step that I take. And sometimes we need to pace it out, and that's okay. But there's ways that we can make it come into the material by being something that we wear. If there's a specific blouse, you're like, oh, I can see that. Or like sometimes you see things and there's a curiosity that's like, Oh, I'll probably wear that when I'm like 50 or something. I won't wear it now, but I'll wear it when I'm 50. Or you see a woman passing by and you're like, oh, gosh, her hair looks incredible. And she's like 75 or something. You're like, oh yeah, when I'm 75, I can totally imagine wearing my hair like this, right? So there's an admiration, there's an adoration to beauty. And that in itself is a huge, huge and easy reference point for women to get in touch with themselves, get in touch with what they feel, with what they sense, and then utilize that through their closet by going, this is who I'd like to create. This is who I'd like to design. This is how I'd like to design her. And then all of that beauty just gets amplified and gets like reflected back to yourself.
Yeah,
It's
and
so simple, actually.
yeah, and this way also this future version of you isn't something that is far out, but it comes into this very moment, into who you are, into your like immediate reality, and having your feet in the boots. It's like it is connecting those two places immediately. So I love that. And I am like so into like thinking about who I am when I am old. And I feel like I have always been this, even at 11, I was always thinking about who will I be when I'm like 80? Who will I be when I'm 80? And for me, it has all this feeling of I want to look back at a life that was fulfilled, that was rich in experience, and that, okay, how do I describe this? So it's like I am thinking about this future version of myself when my hair is gray, when I'm sitting with my tea in my kitchen overlooking the ocean, like a wild ocean, like with cliffs and like massive like nature to in its heights. And I am this person that is eclectic, that has lived, that has collected all of her life. And with that sensation of that future version, it's not like what makes sense for her, but it's kind of like, of course, as I move through life moment to moment, I am already that person. And I am right now, it's kind of like collecting all of the things that will later on live in her house. And I am living the life that is fulfilling her in the end, or that makes her richness. When I look at her like a crone, like this old wise witch, and I am already her by moving this way. So this is not only about the next version of self, like the one that is coming next. Like so often we're about like these tiny steps of the very next version, but it's like you can bridge your entire life in this way of understanding that you are walking into yourself. And you can be that crone, you can be that old woman right now, already in your essence and your way of being, and that maturity and sovereignty and so on. And also for me, I have studied interior architecture, so I'm very like a spatial person. I have collected so many things. So not only my clothing, but also my home is with all of these little trinkets and little boxes. And like even now, this closet obviously has a history. This chair obviously has a history. So it's like all of these things that have something and that create this environment of I lost my train of thought, but okay, so like it all creates an environment that is not just what I'm wearing, but also what I'm sitting in, and the intentionality of how you dress, how you create beauty for yourself in the way you dress can extend out into all of your life, into your home, into every single moment. It's like, what do you smell? Do you have like candles or a diffuser, or do you smoke out your room, or do you have like do you use your senses in everything that you do? It's like this reality creation beyond just what we often think about. I am the creator of my own reality, and these are my goals that I want to move towards, that I want to create. But really taking it into every single moment with intentionality. I am creating every single moment in my life. So what happens when I am just intentional in every little detail?
Yeah. I mean, it shifts everything, right? Yeah. And there's a deep piece within in what you're sharing that has to do with honoring what is and what is to come. And that sense of like devotion, that sense of perspective makes it a lot easier to relax in the present moment. If you're like adorning yourself already now for when you're 80, like if shit hits the fan right now, if something comes up that's like challenging, you're like, oh, okay. It cannot shake you as deeply as if there is, as comparatively, if you don't have that sense of reverence with yourself of the now and of the future. And in that same, bubble, it's like, well, the future is now because you're already in devotion to the 80-year-old. Like that's what I'm understanding from what you're sharing right now is like it's already happening now. And it makes it so much easier to sit in relaxation when things become tense. Because like that's like I mentioned there's going to be more conflict. If you're willing to be more authentic, there's going to probably be more conflict. That's not a bad thing. It's like it's easier to sit in the discomfort of a conflict when you've been already in practice, in ritual with yourself, whether that's your space, your room, like smoking it out, whether that's in your closet, looking at your boots, looking at your dresses, looking at your pants, and going, all of these things have their place. All of these things have a story. I've created that story. It's come maybe with a story. And I also think that I want to throw this in here. There's something really special about the honoring that happens when things come to us and have a story, like your closet that you have back there has a story, and it came to you probably with a story, right? It didn't get made yesterday. And the same thing is applicable to like heirlooms. By the way, I'm also wearing an heirloom. I'm wearing a necklace and also a ring from my
Lovely.
grandmother. So it's, and there's something that we carry that has honor, that says, okay, this is with me now. And so then when we get into conflict and we're of course feeling our triggers, feeling our somatic body, sensing the anxiety, the abandonment, the rejection, all these things that are very fucking real for women to feel. But it's so much easier to digest when things like, and I know it's going to sound crazy, but it's true, our closet is selected in a way that feels intentional and beautiful. Our home is created in a way that feels intentional and ritualized. When what we're wearing is something that emanates to ourselves, yes, this is who I am. This is how I expressed myself today. When these things exist, conflict, when it arrives, is so much easier. It's still hard, but it is so much easier because we're rooted in our womb, we're rooted in our spine, we're living in the back of our body because these things exist and they're honored. And in honoring, we are honoring ourselves. So it's just like a really big fucking beautiful loop.
Yeah.
If you get into practices like this, if you take it seriously, if you allow yourself to be invited into a world like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So one thing that I am curious about, because it came up a little bit earlier in the conversation, where I thought so often the shadow that we hold is not only like the bad stuff in quotes, but also our own brilliance, our intelligence, our power. It's also in the shadow. What do you feel like? Okay, what is my question? When we go into the future, what do you feel like are the most important shadows for us to integrate, if you can break it down that simply. I'm not sure if it is, you are able to say like, these are the shadow aspects that I see, but maybe you have some shadow aspects that you see in your women that are like the most important to look at.
I feel like it would be too easy to say, the nice girl. Would be too easy. But I'm going to drop that one for a woman to pick up on their own and go, oh, fuck, yeah, that is me. That is living in my shadow. So I'll leave that there. I would, I would say to, like, the umbrella term, I would say is self-sabotage, and underneath that lives self-abandonment. And that's the thing that I see across the board, time and time again. And by the way, I'm not perfect. It also happens to me. It happens to every woman. Self-abandonment to various degrees, right? But across the board, this is the shadow that lives within every woman's psyche. And like I said, to varying degrees, that wreaks havoc on women's love lives, especially. Yeah. So the consistent repetition of abandoning our needs, like abandoning what it is that we'd like to say halfway through a conversation because we noticed that our lover's face just changed slightly. Yeah, we all know it. We know the moments where, by the way, a hilarious metaphor is like abandoning carts. How many things have you put in a cart when you're online shopping or when you're literally shopping and you just left it fucking there? Like you just been like, fuck it. Right? As like there's so many nuances to the way that women decide to abandon themselves. And I think we need to be very precise about how it is we do the counterpart of abandonment, which is, deep ritualization with our heart, our soul, our mind, a little less on the mind, but more on the body. And we spend time in that. We spend time like swimming in that and getting like deeply, deeply acquainted with that. And, the antidote to self-abandonment is loyalty. It's loyalty to ourselves. And it's a necessity to I say battle, but I say battle with love, not with fire, not with swords. Like, we don't need to cut off the parts of ourselves that love to abandon. We need to love them back into union. We need to love them back into our existence, right? But we do need to put her in her place. The part that loves to sabotage, the part that says, oh my God, yeah, fuck it. He just said he wants to do this, even though I really wanted to go out and do this, right? And okay, so how can we love her? How can we love her back into ourselves? How can we make sure that we're advocating for her? How can we make sure that we're having ownership for her? How can we be her mother? And that's when it becomes interesting. How can we be her father? How do we say, hey, baby girl, like, I'm so sorry. Like, he seems to have other plans for tonight. Why don't we do something together? We start to have a conversation, and then that curiosity begins again. And again, we're training what lives within us. We're training our psyche to be a world that doesn't create fear within us, that doesn't have a huge shadow that overcasts everything and we're abandoning like fucking crazy. We actually start to understand, we start to map it out. And these are tools that get easier and easier. Like I bet you anything that you've probably experienced a moment where you gifted yourself not necessarily 5 dresses, but probably 5 different flowers or like something. Like I am so sure that that is something you created for yourself first before it was something that, started living out in front of your eyes as a physical manifestation.
Yeah.
And we need to begin skin. We need to begin close to skin. When babies are born, it's skin to skin. Okay, and then we add a layer of clothing, but still close to the chest, close to the body. It's the same thing. It's It's the same fucking thing. Okay, so how are you going to dress her? If your little girl is upset because she's just feeling like really abandoned, okay, well, how can you bring her close? And what can you wear on your body that she feels like, oh yeah, let me get cozy in there? Cashmere, fuzzy fleece. Like it's not
Yeah,
rocket science, actually. It's
yeah,
not rocket science.
yeah. I was thinking about one thing, and I don't even know when I started that, but I noticed that in my own closet, like years and years ago, maybe even 10 years ago, I had like good underwear and bad underwear, like underwear that I would wear when I have a date or I'm meeting someone, and then the grandma underwear that I wouldn't wear, or would I sometimes wear if I don't have anything else to wear, like the backup that doesn't really fit. And
Yeah.
I made such a conscious decision to always wear lingerie, like always wear like really, really nice, high quality, cute, with bows and like everything
Mhm.
underwear. I only, besides my period underwear, I only wear this type of underwear. And for me, it has so much to do, it's something no one sees. It's not that I am dressing up for someone else to witness me in my lingerie, but for myself, that I feel like underneath all this clothes, you don't even know how sexy I am underneath all
Mhm.
of this. And you don't need to see, because it's for me. And this is like when we talk about the self abandonment, it was such a power move for myself to say, like, my sexuality, my beauty is for myself first. And it's not limited to only when I'm on a date, when someone else sees me, or only on the good days and then I have backup for the bad days. No, always, every single day, no matter what.
Yeah. Chef's kiss. I love it. Yeah. Yeah. And that's like, by the way, historically, that's also where we began. The undergarment is what created the shape. The undergarment created the shape
Yeah.
beneath what you were wearing on top. And if we use that as a metaphor for everything that we're doing, whether we have now corsets that make us like a stick, or like we have, a petticoat that makes us have like a huge hips, right? Like this is all, if we use that metaphor, then we end up in a place where we go, okay, what is underneath counts. We end up where you are, which is, oh, I feel really fucking good because I have a secret that you don't know underneath my clothes, and you're never gonna know. And there's something enticing about that too. That's like, okay, well, most of the time, like I always say this to my women. I say, just figure out how you can feel hot as fuck all the time.
Yes.
That's it. That's
Amen.
all. That's
Yeah.
it. Like that's all you need to do, because guess what? When you feel hot, you are not dysregulated. Like it is extremely hard to be both at the same time. Feel
Yeah.
sexy. It's very difficult to feel dysregulated at the same time. So if you can focus on that, if you can be curious about that and be like, oh, okay, well, actually, when I wear something underneath all of this, then I have a secret that you don't know. And that makes me very, very, very magnetic for myself and then for the things that I desire, right? Gorgeous, gorgeous.
So,
Hmm.
do you have anything else where you feel like this needs to be said still?
Something is telling me that it would be interesting to also speak on how this correlates to a more woman to woman aspect. So in the sense that while yes, it is about you having an individual experience with your clothes and with your closet and building a closet that reflects who you are, it is also about sharing. It is also about celebration. It is also about how it is that you see certain pieces and go, oh my gosh, Melanie would love that. Or, oh, Emily would look great in this, right? There's a sensation of community that also can take place when we start to ritualize what it is that we're wearing. And then it isn't anymore like, oh, I'm buying this piece now. It is, I'm buying this piece for my entire friend group, for everyone to borrow, for everyone to utilize, right? I mean, not every time, there's certain aspects and there's certain pieces where we go, okay, this is my anchor for the woman that I want to become in the next 6 months. Or this is the piece that is my graduating piece once I've really made amends with this shadowy, icky part of me that I'm having a really hard time loving. This is the piece I get to wear when this feels clear to me and this feels filled with love. So there's certain, points, just like goal setting, but like girl goal setting, where we're like, oh, okay, this is inner work, but we get to have fun while we're
Yes.
doing it. And it's in the same way. It's like, how can we do this for our girlfriends? How can we do this in a way that also allows other women to feel invited into this process? Because there's women still out there terrified of each other. So how can we create an environment? How can we be the living embodiment of the one that goes, oh my gosh, I have this dress. If I'm really honest, I only wear it once a year, and I have this sneaky feeling like it's going to look really, really great on so and so. So next time I see her, I'm going to bring it with me. I'm going to say, hey, do you feel like wearing this dress? Do you think it would be a yes to you? Does it feel like a yes to you? And maybe it's a yes, maybe it's a no. That's also okay. But it's the thought, it's the generosity, and it's the storytelling, it's the giving back. So in the same way that we're like taking and we're going to the thrift shop and we're like wearing the heirlooms and we're like honoring the things of the past, it's like, how can we pass it forward? How can we give it forward? Or we're like, okay, let's, share certain items in our closets, right? And be like, let's switch it every time we see each other. Like I do this quite often, and I can see how it's being replicated in different groups and different fields. And I think that's a very important piece when we talk about storytelling, when we talk about the woman that we want to be. It is not just our own experience. Yes, it begins there, but it is also how we give back. Yeah, that's
Beautiful.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
So I want to close with 3 questions,
Hmm.
but I already feel like I need to ask them differently now.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Take your time.
The first question usually is, what do you see as your role in bringing this desired reality in? But I want to ask you, who are you and what are all the ways that you bring in this desired reality?
And by desired reality, you mean something that I've decided that I desire to have in this reality?
No, I mean the reality of authenticity and freedom that we talked about right in the beginning.
Yeah.
But right now, I feel like with all of what we talked about, it's like even more than authenticity and freedom. It's like all of these acts of intentionality and like doing the inner work while living and while being and bridging the future into the now. Like there were so many different aspects that we talked about reality creation.
Hmm.
So instead
Yeah.
of asking for your role, I want to ask you, who are you?
Who am I? Ah, who am I in the midst of all of
Yeah.
this? Who am I in the midst of all of this? I am also just a woman. I'm also just a woman. And the only reason I was like, am I going to be really cocky? Yeah, I'm going to be
Yes.
really cocky. The only reason why I'm so fucking good at what I do is because I've understood authority. That's it. Like, you want freedom, you want to be authentic, you have to understand your authority, your inner authority, and then also how what your role is in relation to the authority that lives outside of you, right? So who am I? Just a woman that deeply understands authority, a woman who is willing to show you where your authority is, who's willing to teach you everything she knows until her dying breath so that you can feel authoritative about your own experience, about your own story. That's it.
Perfect. So let me ask you, how do you guide and support others?
It depends on how they come to me. Depends how they come to me. Sometimes women need to be loved into truth, and some women need to be truthed into love.
Love it.
And I am fearless about the work that is necessary. I am the one that holds the lantern when all the lights go out, because we're at the very fucking bottom of your basement, like the very bottom, in the darkest corner you never wanted to look into. I'm there with the lantern, and I'm like, oh my God, cute boots. And then we're having a giggle because, how do I do it? I'm I don't think this needs to be hard, and I don't think you need to have a huge cathartic process every time you do inner work. I don't think so. I don't believe in that. I believe that there is another way, and the method that I teach is deeply engraved with the symbols that the psyche brings. And I'm teaching you how to be in connection with that, how to be in devotion and in reverence with that. So that it doesn't have to be so hard. It's so we can laugh while we're at the scariest fucking part of the movie that is your life, right? And the scariest piece of the somatic process that you didn't even know you were going to be doing. That's it. We get to laugh, we get to have fun, and you get to feel sexy while you're doing it.
Yeah. So, how can people find you and work with you, and what do you want to invite them into right now?
Ooh. So you can find me at Shadow Madonna on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok, on all of the little places. You can find me, you can DM me, and you can tell me how it is that you are sabotaging yourself. I would love to know. I'd love to hear what it is that catches you off guard, that keeps you in that loop of suffering and pain, especially when it comes to love, especially when it comes to relational work. I'd love to hear. In general, I only work 3, 6, 9 months with women, sometimes longer when they feel it. I have those women around too. And you can join my in-person event on September 26th in Berlin. It's going to be really sexy, fun, and enticing. More details to come on that.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sara-Lynn, for this whole conversation. I'm still in it. I love it. And I feel like it has so many things to think about, to contemplate more, and to just really take into our life, to use, to practice, to have this ritual and intentionality always. So, yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure. I had the best time. I'm like so in awe with our conversation, and I hope that many, many women can just get a little bit of inspo, feel like a muse, look at muses around themselves, feel just that energy, and I'm just so grateful. So thank you so, so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to this conversation with Sara-Lynn. Please let us know what you thought and what you contemplated, what you reflected on in this episode. You can leave us a comment down below or give the podcast a review and let us know. You can also reach out on Instagram at beyondthehorizon.pod and just message us what you thought and how you liked this episode. You can find Sara-Lynn and her work on Instagram at Shadow Madonna, and I highly recommend, if you love this episode, all of these themes of intentionally dressing yourself and what it means to really live this inner work in your daily life, you will definitely like her upcoming event on the 26th of September in Berlin. And if you are curious about her mentoring work, working one-on-one with her, as she mentioned, you can reach out to her and send a DM to her on Instagram and ask about it. This intentionality and living the mystical and the mundane, integrating this way of being into your life as you move in alignment is such a huge part of my work. And I recommend, if you want to dive deeper into my own work with that, you can check out the Creative Waters Way. It is a living library, a growing library of wisdom where you find all of these different courses with transmissions around creation, identity work, the feminine and the masculine, all the themes that we talked about, all of these energetic principles. And then a lot of meditations and practices and journal prompts, how you can integrate this and really step into a way of being where you move as one with life. I also have a retreat coming up in September, 1 week before Sara-Lynn's event in Berlin. My retreat will be from the 16th to the 20th of September here in the Austrian Alps. I will invite you, only 4 women, into my world, into my way of being. We will go into nature and energetically work with the elements, do sessions right here in this studio space of mine, and really dive deep into this way of being in this close and intimate container in my world, in my home. So if you are curious about that, also reach out directly to me, because I will only allow 4 women in. So this is a very small and exclusive, intimate offer. But if you are curious, let me know and we can chat about it. Until then, you will hear from me in 2 weeks' time again for another episode of Beyond the Horizon. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time.